Hey guys, welcome to the Badger Pod Nerdcast number 63. Whew, we're going to be doing a three-parter. So this is going to be over three shows. So that this show and the next two we'll be covering Star Wars. It is a giant pop culture phenomenon, so it needs a little bit extra time. And today on today's show, we're specifically going to be focusing on episodes 1, 2, and 3, the prequels, because we want to do it in order and just get through this part, because I know this is like probably the one that's going to have the most contention. But I'm actually really curious to see what people think about episodes 1, 2, and 3. I'm your host, Brian Martinez, and I'm joined by my guests. We have my fellow Badger, Mike. Hello, Mr. Stephenson.
That'll do.
And joined by Max.
Hashtag take it to the max.
Take it to the max, that's right. And then we have our special guest, Skeptor.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Oh, yeah, that's right, because it's kind of evening where you are. It's like 6, right, or 7?
It's 8.
Oh, shit, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I'm backwards in time an hour. It's so fucking crazy. All right, so before we get into the topic of Star Wars, I'm gonna first look at some of the comments we got on our last show, which was about South Park season 19. I think that we did talk about it in the abstract and some of the specifics, but there were some things that people pointed out that I thought was worth looking into a little bit more. So I picked out some of my favorite comments from the comments section, and I'm going to read them. This is basically people reflecting on season 19 and also the way that we talked about it. So, all right. Palace of Wisdom wrote in a comment, by making all the PC people white males, they were guaranteed to get no backlash for portraying PC culture in a negative light. Social justice warriors won't ever defend white males, even from their own ranks. If they were robots, that's the paradox that would make their heads explode. They're being intolerant of PC culture, but it's impossible to be intolerant of straight white males. Boom. All right. And another comment that was kind of related to this one was by a guy named Devil's Advocate. The only problem I had with the South Park season was the way that they portrayed social justice warriors. They portrayed them as frat boys, but in reality, they're usually fat, unattractive women with dyed hair. But I guess that would have been too real even for South Park. Imagine how much shit they would have gotten if they actually portrayed feminists at the way that they actually look. The frat boys were a scapegoat because it's easy to hate on frat boys and broing down. And they made men look like dumb douchebags using the lazy, stupid man narrative, while there was not a significant amount of social justice warrior women being assholes on the show, because that would have gotten the creatives of South Park in trouble. All right. So, what do you guys think? Do you think that those things have any weight? Like that maybe they're kind of like I don't know, copping out a little bit when they did that? Max.
It's hard to really determine because, when you think about the stuff that South Park has done over the years and the people that they've gone after, I mean, remember the whole controversy on the 200th episode of South Park, I believe, where they were threatening to show an image of Muhammad, and then all the radicals were up in arms about that. To think that they wouldn't be afraid of that, but they would be sort of very cautious about how they go about poking fun of the politically correct crowd. It's sort of something that I don't really want to believe. But I don't know, maybe they just wanted to go, like they went with the jock douchebag archetype because, hey, it made for an easy joke because they're all very collectivist. They're all very not aware of themselves. And maybe there was just better opportunity for a joke there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we pretty much covered it in the episode. It has to be someone that everyone can laugh at, because they made them all white college frat boys, and it's not as if all us lot went, hey, that's not funny now because you used. No, we fucking loved it. We laughed our asses off, and it was perfect. Whereas if they did use women, particularly women that look like feminists, then we would still laugh. But a whole swathe of people would go, "How fucking dare you!" So you just got to play those cards,
And plus, it's hard to argue that there's a more pathetic form of this like the social justice warrior archetype than the white male, like
Exactly.
John McIntosh. Yeah.
No, I think yeah, that you're on a point here because it makes much more sense for women to be feminists. It makes much more sense for minorities to be social justice warriors. And probably the most pathetic of the group are the white knights or the people who hate themselves. It's like they have white guilt and they're probably the easiest target or the best target.
I was thinking that one of the other things could be that Matt and Trey were trying to. Okay, imagine yourself as a social justice warrior, and you believe in everything that all of the things that they believe in, all of their progressive politics and everything, and you believe in.
Find it easier to imagine myself as an ISIS warrior.
Yeah, yeah, and imagine that that the enemy is straight white men, and they have privilege and they dominate the culture, and they're the reason why the world is in such a bad, I don't know, it's in such a bad shape. And then these guys make a South Park season where they portray the enemy as you. Could that be a way of sort of like being more insulting? And then the fact is that there's a lot of truth there too. I mean, I don't think completely, but there are a lot of straight white males, these Jonathan McIntosh types that are the frontliners of social justice stuff. So would it be like a bit of cognitive dissonance that a viewer might suffer if they saw that, as opposed to if they just put up a bunch of black belt feminists with rainbow hair. I don't know. I mean, that could be the thing, or maybe they did kind of go for the straight white male because it's easier, and people can hate them easier. And maybe by showing that and like allowing people to to express like their disdain for the straight white male in this context, that's actually kind of like you could almost think of it as like an entertainment experiment where people's ability to say, well, fuck those guys, they were douchebags, those dude bros. That's actually showing their own bigotry that the social justice warriors actually have. It's kind of like a layered response. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think it might make sense that they expected more than probably white men than they expect from others. So that's why they went after them. That's why what makes sense to me. It's like picking on the weakest child in the group or on the biggest one. And I guess
these guys are like the easiest targets, basically. So
well, the easiest targets because they are the biggest. Let's call them the biggest.
Buffoons.
Yeah, but no, I'm actually saying the opposite thing. I'm saying that because they were expected the white men to be less of that. They say we're not going to bash stupid feminists because it's too easy.
Well, the thing that we're all ultimately supposed to be satirizing is behavior, and social justice is a behavior. It's something that anyone can do, something that anyone does do, and one of the behaviors common to social justice is identity politics. So if we portray social justice warriors as women or as brown people, then we're not going to get through their armor whatsoever, because all they're going to see is the identity of the people we're using to satirize them. They're not going to notice that we're satirizing the behavior. But if we do it as straight white frat boy males, then that's the only way they can actually see the behavior, because to them straight white frat boy males are blank slates. You can say whatever the fuck you like, and they don't have an identity politic to throw at the situation. So this is the only way we get them to examine the behavior, by using blank slates like straight white men. Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Skep, did you want to add to that at all, or?
No, I'm just eating.
Oh, okay. All right, let me read the next letter that or next comment that this another person wrote. All right, Sabretooth wrote, What the hell is everyone talking about? This season was the lamest possible excuse for an attack on the SJWs by South Park standards. The SJWs came out looking like misunderstood heroes in the end. Compared to the classic South Park Take No Prisoners ass-kicking after all these years and going after every religion there is, South Park finally took on feminists and social justice warriors, but when they did, they totally chickened out and they just poked gentle fun at them. There's nothing to celebrate here. Trey and Matt bent over for the feminists like everyone else.
No.
The night is young. We don't know what they're going to do next season.
Yeah, like we already know they're bringing back PC Principal for the second season, considering how good of a response it has gotten. Like, and you didn't like it, and that's respectable because all entertainment is subjective. But it has been a pretty well received season, and who knows, it might go a little bit more extreme next season, considering how much the content has resonated with the viewers.
It's funny about the PC Principal character because he was made specifically to address, a problem. Like you're supposed to want him to be an obsolete idea in the context of, his behavior being a problem, but he's so funny and likable as a result of that you kind of don't want him to go away because then you lose the opportunity to continue to lampoon those kinds of attitudes and behaviors through PC Principal. So I actually really think the character is great, and when I was watching the season, I was looking forward to the ones that had more PC Principal in them than not,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a bit of a ironic thing about it is that on the one hand you would want, maybe people would have wanted him to be killed or something happened to him by the end that he would remove him and South Park would go back to its sort of really anti-politically correct roots, but then you wouldn't be able to joke about him anymore. It's sort of like like when you get a really delicious dessert and you see it and you can't wait to eat it, but you know that at one point you're going to be done and it's gonna be you're gonna have eaten it and then there won't be any more dessert. So
what's wrong, Brian? You have your cake, eat it too.
That's right.
And I don't think they came strong on they came down hard on Caitlyn Jenner in that.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think they were so apologetic,
I think, yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of
buckle up. Never ends. Yeah.
I never stop laughing at that joke. Yeah, where she keeps running over people. But when it comes to the stuff that they've tackled in this season, I can understand why people within our community would sort of be just a little bit let down because we've seen how far and how bad things can get when it comes to the radically progressive crowd. I bet there were people just watching this show this season, just like I was, that were expecting them to make some sort of tiny reference to Gamergate or something because of how much the PC culture and that have sort of intertwined over the last year or so. But look, they've tackled some of the ridiculous speech codes, like Randy calling out his wife, Sharon, for using the terms men and women and saying that is an agender-phobic microaggression. You are a bigot. That's totally something that I want to hear South Park lampoon, right? But so I think they did a good job, but don't worry so much. I feel that PC is just too much of a comedic goldmine for people like Matt Stone and Trey Parker to not continue to mine. And like I said, PC Principal is going to be back, so just hang in there, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with Mike. I don't think it's over yet, because okay, when do they normally start their new seasons? Do you guys know?
Normally March. Yeah, March and September.
March, okay.
Sort of half and half, don't they?
Yeah, so we're probably due for one. And the thing is that we have an election year coming up. Mr. Garrison is running for office. I mean, if they stick with it, Bruce Jenner as his running mate, Caitlyn Jenner. Sunny and Brave, my bad. And I think that there's still more to do there, right? So, okay.
I should have done woo 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 woo. Did someone
What's
did
going
not
on here,
refer to
bro?
Kaitlyn Jenner in your proper pronoun?
Caitlyn Jenner is a stunning and beautiful woman.
All right, so let's do the next letter or comment. Joe wrote, to people who say that they were too soft on PC culture and SJWs, it isn't over. PC Principal being the hero at the end of the season finale felt more like a dark subversion of a happy ending. It looks like all sunshine and lollipops on the surface, but the true evil won. That's how sinister SJW culture is. No one realized it. PC Principal is an ad. Leslie was a red herring. And I'm not sure that the ads themselves are the biggest enemy in this story arc. False happy endings where people are living a lie were a constant theme throughout the season. In Tweak X Craig, they were essentially forced to pretend to be gay to satisfy other people's expectations. In other words, the false narrative created by the mob won over truth and reality. These types of Orwellian undertones rang throughout almost every episode. In the ninja episode, where Cartman was trying to get everyone to forget that he said ninjas were gay, felt like a nod to Animal Farm's Barn Wall and 1984's Memory Hole. The best episode is Safe Space. Its final scene encapsulates the dynamic of SJWs perfectly. They use Butters, the most innocent and good-natured character, in order to kill reality. They are exploiting and abusing humanity's altruism in order to feed their selfishness and create an Orwellian nightmare. All right, so that was Joe's comment.
I love that last line that he wrote.
Yeah.
Joe is very deep.
Joe got deep. I think that that's actually a really good point too. That that he did that. Yeah, Joe, those are really interesting points. I think that I'd like to see what they do with the next season. And yes, I had observed that the principal himself was an ad because he was in the ad with Leslie. And I think that to ignore that is a bit of a distraction. So
It might be sort of a Blade thing. He's one of them.
he's like the Daywalker. Yeah, that's true. I guess we'll see. I hope that they go down that route.
Maybe he'll also be the Pinocchio in the story.
Oh, like he could turn into a real boy by the end or something?
Yeah, by the end of season 20, he'll become a real human being and stop being PC. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, too. All right, and last comment, loading gears. Honestly, I don't think the ads were a cop-out for PC websites. I think this season was going after PC culture, and the last episodes were starting to draw closer and closer to something, and then when it seemed like they were going to get to it, they shifted to ads. What I'm talking about is, I think they were kind of pointing towards ISIS until they finally switched it around. Look at how they showed the episode where the kids made the ninja club. By the way, guys, ninjas are totally fucking gay. There was a part where it went back and forward between showing the PC people worrying about stupid trivial issues and then showing the kids' ninja club getting bigger. And then back to the PC people worrying about more trivial shit. And then back to the club, which is now even bigger. Kind of like how our politicians distract over stupid rap or stupid crap while ISIS gets stronger. Or how the left wants us to shift our concerns towards climate change because it's a bigger national threat to us than ISIS, according to Bernie anyways. The thing that really kind of solidified this was that when Jimmy met with the news people and the tension grew more and more until they finally said that PC culture is just a distraction for a much bigger thing, Jimmy said what I think we're all supposed to think until then. He says, ISIS? But then they switch it up and they go with ads. That's my opinion, at least. So actually, that's kind of an interesting point too. Like that episode where, there were like everybody was worrying about really trivial shit. Meanwhile, the Ninja Club was growing more and more, and they didn't really take notice until it had like gotten to the point where they didn't know how to deal with it. They were actually more upset about homeless people on their streets of Shutipa town than the fact that ISIS was taking over Soto Sopa. So, what do you think about that? Nothing?
Yes, I concur.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for those comments, guys that wrote that. And if you guys have any other interesting thoughts on South Park Season 19, you can leave another comment either on the original video or this one. But we got to get to why we're actually here. We're going to talk about Star Wars. Max, do you have anything queued up?
Yeah, I did. I guess I just closed it. Just bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, for just 2 seconds. So,
Okay.
let's talk about a creative visionary named George Lucas, everybody. A man who was key in moving the film industry into the digital world, giving us technologies to enhance the movie-going experience for the new millennium. Instrumental in bringing about industrial light and magic and THX. This genius of a... Okay, all right, I'll stop trolling. Star Wars! What is there to say? What other movie franchise has stricken our imaginations with such, dare I say, force? You have some of the most beloved characters of all time. Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, C-3PO, obviously R2-D2. You have arguably the greatest villain of all time in Darth Vader, along with his master Darth Sidious. I can feel your anger. Epic space battles. Effective drama, once only confined to Oscar contenders. Wookiees and Ewoks, small brushes with incest. It's everything you could want in a movie and more. There is a reason it is the biggest and arguably most beloved franchise, not just movie franchise, but franchise of all time. However, some might say it's too big. And one of the main things the original trilogy did so well was not explain every little thing about this galaxy far, far away, which in turn just allowed our imaginations to run wild. You know, like characters like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda alluded to things like the Jedi Order, the Clone Wars, and the Legend of Anakin Skywalker. There was such a large universe to explore, and the only official story that we had prior to 1998 were the original 3 movies, a Christmas special, which we don't talk about, and a whole lot of glorified fan fiction where Chewbacca gets killed by a moon. So you can imagine how pumped the entire world was when we learned that George Lucas was going to produce a new trilogy, a prequel trilogy. He was going to give us the stories that we've dreamed about hearing ever since 1983. We were going to learn about Obi-Wan's backstory, the rise of the Galactic Empire, Yoda back in his heyday, the Jedi Temple, you know, all that stuff. It was all too good to be true, right? So people camped out in line to get tickets. People speculated on forums during the first years of the internet, or they went to their local comic book store. It was an exciting time to be a fan of this franchise again. And you know, the trailer for The Phantom Menace was pretty badass. There were awesome special effects, lightsaber battles, glimpses of C-3PO and R2-D2. We were at home again. So the day finally came where we all sat down in the theater waiting for the immortal yellow text crawl and the classic John Williams theme. And as the light went down and the roar of the crowd starts, there's a lone geek in the neckbreaker seats who ponders a question that he never thought about until that moment. What if it sucks?
Is that it?
That's it. So
no, that's perfect. Okay.
Do you want to take it from there, Brian?
No. Okay. Oh boy, the prequels. All right. I think I need a minute. So, but okay, you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say something that might be a bit contentious. I did not hate the prequels as much as most people who I've spoken to hated the prequels. I can understand why The Phantom Menace was cringeworthy as fuck, and I can understand why people thought, who the fuck thought Hayden Christensen could be an actor when I saw his performance in the Attack of the Clones. But Revenge of the Sith was a solid film, in my opinion. I liked it. And Attack of the Clones had a lot of good parts that didn't have Hayden Christensen in them. Yeah, that's pretty much my feeling on it. I mean, it's clearly not as good as the original movies. But they were original movies, so I don't know. I didn't hate them as much. And here's the thing too: the big reason why I love the thing I think I like most about the prequels is the same thing I think I like most about the original films, and that is Palpatine. Palpatine's the best character in all of Star Wars to me. He's my favorite. And to see him in those movies, he actually saved a lot of them. He was basically the best parts of those. But maybe it's because he was like one of the more experienced actors. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, well, we could like seriously dismantle these for a while, so I'm gonna let some.
Wait. What do you mean serious actors? There were big names in that movie, in those
There
movies. You
were.
had Samuel L. Jackson, you had Natalie Portman, and you had
Liam
uh,
Neeson,
Liam Neeson and Obi-Wan, uh,
Ewan McGregor.
even
And they were
McGregor.
all completely wasted on this.
They
on these
were.
movies.
Samuel L. Jackson had awful dialogue. Natalie Portman, I think that she was pretty cringeworthy in that. Liam Neeson was all right, but he didn't like stay that long. And Christopher Lee is another one that is really good. And he was pretty good in that too. But I think that a lot of them were, if not most of them, were pretty underused. And that may be the fault of the director or the writers.
Let me put it to you this way. All the UK-born actors did a good job. All the other ones, not so much. Am I wrong in that assumption?
C-3PO was still great.
True. But then again, he was great in the original trilogy. I mean, like the ones
He's
that are...
good in everything.
Yeah. God bless Anthony Daniels.
C-3PO deserves his own little miniature C-3PO.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
He needs a kid.
Yeah.
He needs a show.
He needs a yeah.
Or a YouTube channel, imagine that.
Oh, my.
Today, we're about to talk about social justice
You would
warriors.
do it in like 6 million different languages. That's a lot of YouTube.
We're going to talk about social justice warriors. If you ever thought that there was a faction of people gayer than I am, you were wrong. God, no, I'm just kidding.
But all right. So maybe we should like break this down into the individual films to like create some kind of cohesion.
Yes.
Phantom Menace. All right. So, this is pod racing. What? All right. What? So what? Let's try to like. I want to challenge you guys. What was good about Phantom Menace? That's the
Special
challenge.
effects.
What?
Yes.
Have very good CGI. When I
Actually,
watched,
I hated the fact that they used CGI.
that was the only thing that I could pay attention to because I couldn't figure out the fucking plot at all. When I was a kid and I watched movies, I couldn't figure out the plot. I just watched it for various bits of fun sort of special effects, and it was much like that with watching The Phantom Menace. Like within half an hour, I've got no fucking clue. Actually, within the first scene, I've got no fucking clue what's going on. But it's got some nice CG effects in there. It looked very pretty. You got to give it that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in the day, like people tend to forget that just because like the Phantom Menace has such a bad rap right now, people forget how revolutionary the special effects and the sound design were in the Phantom Menace. And it still blows my mind that the Matrix did win the Oscar for Best Special Effects that year, and I understand why, but compared to the Phantom Menace and what it did, because when we were in the theater, well, I mean, like I was in the theater because when the Phantom Menace came out, I was 5 years old. But when people were in the theater, from what I understand, it was absolutely exhilarating, the pod race, seeing Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi just in those over-choreographed yet still awesome lightsaber battles. And I would say compared to the other two movies, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, I would still say that the special effects in the Phantom Menace were still a whole lot better before they got overused. So, yeah, those are the elements that I would say I appreciated the most. The special effects, Darth Maul, and the Duel of the Fates music, awesome.
Oh,
yeah. And the pod race. I will always defend the pod race.
All right, Skep, you gotta give me something that you could take away that wasn't that bad about Phantom Menace. I know that's the hard part. We'll get into why it sucks.
Okay, first thing that was good about the Phantom Menace, no Han Solo. They didn't fuck up the character. No, I'm just kidding. I'm using Mr. Plinkett's review. But
Fuck up everything.
yeah, well, I think it was the most coherent movie for me in terms of story. Second one, third one, I disagree with you. By the way, third one, I found it to be very, very lacking. But let's talk about that later. And another comment on what you said earlier, the originals were the originals. Well, then so what? You know, it doesn't mean that you cannot make prequels even better. Look at Doctor Who, 50 seasons, and it's still great. So my point is, the movie was actually very coherent in terms of story. It sets the baseline to the entire story behind the Empire and Darth Vader and everything. And it's very, very, linear and it makes sense. There's no breakup no serious plot holes like what happened in the other movies.
Yeah, it's basically you've got like an and then kind of like pacing to it, where everything is just like followed. This happens and then this happens and then this happens and then this happens.
Yeah, and they just give you the story about the characters in a very sensible way. So I guess it wasn't shitty like the others in terms of plot holes and stuff like that. But so the story was solid. You might say it wasn't the best story, the most interesting story, or it had problems, but still the story was solid. And I didn't like the guy who played
Anakin
Skywalker later in the other movies. So
yeah, so basically not having Hayden Christensen in the films is good too.
Were you happy with the guy who played him in the Phantom Menace? Why is that an exception? What was the worst thing about that?
The kid made a bit. The kid made a bit. I'm sorry, I'm coughing, so I'm muting myself. But the kid did a better job.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did. I mean, the guy. What's the guy's name? Come on, I don't know the guy's name.
Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd?
Jake Lloyd is a kid.
No, the grown-up.
Oh, Hayden Christensen.
Caden. Okay, so Caden was the worst actor on the series, no doubt. Like one order of magnitude above everyone else. So yeah. So so that's why it's not as bad. It's
Ship pile number 1, ship pile number 2. Take your pick.
And Liam Neeson did a good job.
Because he's Liam Neeson.
I liked Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor in that film. Okay, and someone in the comments section said the pod racing scene was actually a tribute to Ben-Hur. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's like a good thing or not, though. But the pod racing is actually really cool if you turn off the fucking announcers. I did not like them at all. They were really irritating. But visually it was really cool. I remember there were like video games made of it, and I don't know, like it was people got into that. So okay, so let's see. Why was the Phantom Menace shit?
I think the discussion on that starts and ends with 2 words. He's back.
So, Jar Jar Binks, which is that's the elephant in the room, as it were.
Let's not tackle with the obvious, okay?
Can we just put it off?
All right. So wait. So Jar Jar Binks. There's a reason why in the following films there was significantly less Jar Jar. I think in the second one he had like one scene, and in the third one he has like a silent bit where he doesn't actually speak, and there's like way less. But here's the ironic thing about Jar Jar. I found that I watched a documentary called "The People Against George Lucas," and in the end they were interviewing a bunch of younger people, like kids that had grown up on the old Star Wars, and a lot of them liked Jar Jar Binks. So they actually found him to be really funny and slapsticky and silly and stuff. So sometimes I wonder if it isn't my old like cynical, the fact that I'm an older guy that grew up on the originals that has a lot of disdain. But really, it's actually kind of moved on to ambivalence towards Jar Jar Binks. Like, I don't really care about the character. I don't think that he single-handedly destroyed the series. I think that could actually be accredited to George Lucas not being a really great director. He's really good at coming up with worlds and ideas and concepts, but when it comes to actually like telling a story, I think that's where he's weak at. And like performances like Hayden Christensen's, where he's saying, it's sand, it's rough, and it's coarse, and it gets into everything. I think that's way more irritating than Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, I love you. I love you more. This guy is not scary as fuck. And I need to say a few things about what you just mentioned. First is that a few things that I've heard that one is that George Lucas was completely in charge of the first prequel, unlike the original series where others had some authority in the movies, in the making of the movies, and they took stuff out of his hands, and he was not the only one who made decisions. So he didn't manage to fuck up some stuff. And in this case, he was like the dictator. He and everyone was a yes man in the production. And when they finished recording everything, so he just came up with a story. No one told him that it's fucked up. They just went and filmed it. Then they went into the edit room, and when it's done, no one says anything. Too afraid to say anything. And they know it's a clusterfuck, but they don't have anything, it's too late to fix it. And that's one thing I wanted to say. The second one is that Jar Jar Binks, I heard the story that Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be, at the end, a Sith Lord that actually triggers the entire takeover of the Sith. But
now, is that a theory, or is that like supposed to be a real thing? Because I've heard that.
I don't know. I heard that from a guy who is actually usually pretty knowledgeable about stuff. I don't know if that's a good source, but still, it's an interesting theory. But they changed it as they went on because there was so much bad reviews about Jar Jar, and they realized that they fucked up with Jar Jar. They made him too comical, or I don't know. It was a bit cartoonish, maybe too cartoonish, and it made the entire movie too cartoonish. And to come back from that to being the ultimate Sith Lord is a bit too much. So they just dropped him midway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jar Jar Binks looked like the love child of Jimmy Walker and Roger Rabbit, and
and remember that we did I watched The Jedi when I was like 12, and even at 12, and I was a very infantile kid when I was a kid. I watched Thundercats until I was 16 and thought it was awesome. I thought that the bears that the Jedi, the small bears, can't remember the name.
Ewoks.
The Ewoks, yeah. I thought they were childish. So of course, people thought Jar Jar was childish.
I hated the Ewoks. I think that's like one of those things that when we get to that movie next week, the Ewoks are like the Jar Jar of the old trilogy, although still better than Jar Jar.
Yeah, if you want to create a sympathetic character, then there's a few rules you've got to follow, and one of them is give him big, round, inviting eyes, Disney eyes. Yeah, they don't give it weird fucking snail eyes on the end of stalks, because that doesn't look cute or comical. Don't. If you're gonna put the entire comic relief of the fucking of the trilogy into one character, then don't make him look like a snail in the shape of a gangly fucking teenager. Because nobody likes snails or gangly teenagers, do they?
But to be fair, the Ewoks did their part. They took down the soldiers in the base. They helped out. Jar Jar didly.
Okay, I won't. I'll give you that. Although I have issues with that too. But do you think? Okay, do you have a problem with just Jar Jar Binks, or do you have a problem with the entire Gungan race? Because the other Gungans were pretty fucking cool. Although I didn't like Boss Nass. Like, I wasn't crazy about him, but like there were some of the other sort of catfish-looking snail people that they had their force field technology and those slings, and I don't know. I thought that was actually those guys were okay. I didn't mind them as much.
Well, if you know, it's interesting what you can do with a couple of edits. What I recommend everybody that's listening to this show right now that is a fan of Star Wars, which I'm assuming is everybody because you're watching this, to do is go onto YouTube and search up Star Wars anti-cheese edits. Anti-cheese edits. What it is it's basically these fan edits of the original films. I've only watched the first one, but I'm assuming it's pretty good for the other two, where they edit out everything having to do with Jar Jar Binks' voice. They actually changed Jar Jar Binks into being this dumb slapstick child-friendly character into a warrior. You know, they get rid of Boz Nass and a lot of the Gungan stuff, and when you actually see the Gungans, all they're doing is fighting and kicking ass and throwing those blue electrical bombs or whatever the hell they're called, and it's actually pretty cool. So I recommend you check that out.
I didn't know this, and I will admit I think I've only watched The Phantom Menace about twice. Once in the theater, you know, I was the guy sitting in the nosebleed area saying, "Is this gonna suck?" And then I watched it again many years later on Blu-ray or DVD or something. I think it was just DVD to like confirm. Did I hate this as much as I did at that time? And then I never watched it again.
Mm-hmm.
Boss Nass, was he voiced by Brian Blessed?
I don't know.
Somebody said in the comments, and if he was, holy fuck, man. I like Brian Blessed in Flash Gordon and like stuff like that, but I didn't know. If that's him, I'm going to be sad, but yeah. Okay. So, I don't know. Jar Jar, there's not much else to say. One of the other things that people had a problem with Phantom Menace, as well as the other two movies, was that there was, I think Phantom Menace had more of this, though, than the other two, was there was way, way, way too much exposition. Too many things being explained. Do you think do you agree with that notion? Do you think that they could have done that, handled that in a different way? Like, how could we have improved that if that's a real problem?
Let me just propose a drinking game for people that will want to watch The Phantom Menace after watching this episode. Every time you see a sort of semicircle of people just sitting around talking, take a drink. And then you'll be drunk off your ass, and you'll probably have alcohol poisoning. Absolutely, that is one of the worst parts of The Phantom Menace. It's what if I watch that movie now, I watched it a couple of weeks ago, just sort of preparing for The Force Awakens, and God, is it so boring. It's just like you want to care about the story of Star Wars because it's a space opera, it's epic, and the only thing that you want to do is you just want to be mildly entertained by the amazing special effects. It's so shallow. You feel so empty when you see all this stuff going on, just talking about Trade Federation and trade routes and stuff like that. You don't care.
I never really cared about
another good drinking game for the Phantom Menace, or the prequels in general, is take a drink every time you're bored.
Yeah.
It's not even a game, just it's good advice.
Then we'll look like you, Mike.
I need a fucking funnel just every second. It's like a fucking IV.
What about okay? So exposition-wise, okay. So the trade routes thing was stupid. I didn't like that. I didn't really care about that. I actually had a hard time following what that was even about, like the separatists and all of that. Yeah, I was having a hard time following that, and even mostly because I didn't care. It reminds me of there was a big chunk of the Clone Wars animated series. It was like the 3D animated one, where there was a chunk of a season that was dedicated to the politics, and it was so fucking boring. I was like, why are you guys doing this? But the other thing is, okay, a lot of people had a problem with the fact that the Force was kind of like the mystique around it was broken when they started talking about midichlorians. What do you think? Do you think that was really a bad idea? I kind of do, but I mean, I like that it was more of a mystery and that it wasn't really easily explained in a quasi-scientific way.
I should have been talking a lot. Yeah.
Huh?
Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Terrible idea to do.
Go ahead.
Didn't add anything to the story. You know, it's just one of those things that can only ruin a story, not help it. Really, what is the point of explaining that?
Nothing. No.
Exactly.
I mean,
They've had lots of mini plots, haven't they? And sort of the series and the Clone Wars. Or have they ever had some kind of plot that involved like getting midichlorians in a fucking laboratory conditions and creating like concentrated metachlorian vapor?
Yeah, and they had like a midichlorian detector and everything like that. Couldn't they just feel the force, feel a big disturbance in the force and go to the planet where young Anakin was living in? I mean, that would be much more sensible.
Okay, the thing about the midichlorians and the Force is that when you think about the original trilogy and what caused so many people to love it as much as they did is because they briefly alluded to certain concepts in those three movies, but they didn't explain everything. They just let our imaginations run wild with possibilities. The great thing about the Force is that we don't understand entirely how it works. You keep it in mystery. You have brief glimpses of it, and when you have those glimpses of it, it's actually something really special. It really gets across that spiritual, religious feel that you're supposed to have, whether you're engaging in religion in real life or in a movie. And when you introduce, sorry, go ahead.
And then you realize that it's germs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's germs.
Yeah, there's a scene
really.
in New Hope. I might not. It's the one with the scene with Tarkin, I think, and someone says to Vader something about this ancient religion of yours. Like,
yes.
And then he proceeds to use telekinesis. Like, it's not a fucking religion if you can do that, surely.
Yeah.
But now they've gone back and said,
I don't think I believe in that kind of moments, right?
And they have done, and with the metachlorians thing, they've gone ahead and turned what was once a religion into chemical science or something, haven't they? That's why it's less mysterious now.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Ooh, get your hand off.
Okay, so Darth Maul. All right, so like Darth Maul was
underused.
For a while, motherfuckers would not shut up about this character, and I think it was mainly because he looked cool, and plus, Max pointed out that this was the same year that The Matrix came out, and the whole idea of very well choreographed fight scenes in films in the States was at this level. It was kind of unusual. And that was kind of a new thing. So there was a lot of excitement around the character and that scene. Also, the trailers kind of like built him up a lot. But when you meet him, do you think that he turned out to be pretty much a disappointment? Or did the Darth Maul character serve his purpose?
It's hard to say because he's barely in there, and when he is in there, he's awesome.
Yeah.
But his face looks like a $10 mask, right? And he has a stupid name, Darth Maul. What the fuck is that? Who's his cousin, Darth Blister? I mean, what the fuck?
Darth Maul.
Couldn't they come with a better name? That's the best name that they can come up with. Darth Maul.
It's what bears and lions do to people. They maul you, M-A-U-L, not mole.
Yeah.
Darth Maul, 50% off after Christmas sale. That's a comment by Fireproof Troll.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. Actually, a lot of Sith in a lot of different, like not just in the films, but like in other sort of, things like video games and stuff, have really weirdly shit names that are kind of obvious. Like they're trying to tell you, basically not just Sith, but just villains.
Darth Sidious happens to be Insidious. It's like all the Siths happen to have names like that. There's no Darth Jones. Hello, I'm Darth Jones.
So,
P.I.
Then there's General Grievous.
But that's the beauty about
Admiral Bone.
Who was that? Darth Tyrannosaurus Rex. No, Darth Tyrannus. Where was that from?
Darth Tyrannus was Darth Sidious's teacher, right?
No, that was Darth Plagueis.
Oh, I don't know. Where is Darth? That might have been in a game or something. I don't know.
Or the EU, yeah.
Point is, or something from the EU. But
So what is Darth Vader? What is
they're
Darth
really-
Vader?
Darth Vader?
As in Invader,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
He
an
got
evil
the
sounding word
puss.
with one syllable knocked off. So it is.
I don't know. I
Sidious
I
becomes
think
Sidious,
the original
Invader
one.
becomes Vader. Yeah.
I think the
Darth
original
Tyrannus
one.
is, Darth Tyrannus is Count Dooku, which is better than Dooku because that sounds like Dookie, which sounds like shit. So I think the Tyrannus is a much better option.
Oh, Darth Tyrannus was Count Dooku?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
But think about it. I think that Darth Vader did not mean to sound like anything. Darth Vader sounds like a good name and sounds like an evil name, but it's not like Darth badass, Darth evilish, Darth Scabious,
Darth badass. That's great.
There was a there was like General Grievous was another one, and there's a character on the Clone Wars show named, I'm not even playing here. His name was Savage Opress.
He had white privilege.
So, yeah, that's somebody says Darth Andermercam. But the Darth Maul is kind of a. I remember finding that name irritating, and then I don't know. You just kind of stop giving a shit because everyone else has like weirdly crappy names. Mainly the villains, though. So let's go on to all right, the fight scene between Darth Maul and
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan.
Yes.
What's with those? I don't remember, so I could be completely wrong. I'm just going off of memory here. What was with those shield door things that were like separating them? Was there like a function to that, or was that just supposed to make the fight more interesting? Was that like a thing? I think that may have had a purpose, but I don't know. I think it was just to make the fight more interesting.
Don't think about it too much, Brian.
I don't want to think about it too much.
Just
Meanwhile, there was a 6-year-old kid that was blowing up a space station or something.
By accident.
Yeah, by accident. That was being manned by a couple of really bad Japanese stereotypes. Or maybe they were they on that ship?
Yeah, they were.
Those guys.
They are still coming through. This is impossible.
Yeah.
Sorry to all the Japanese listeners. That wasn't my dialogue. That was George Lucas.
Yes.
You need to think about all the maintenance guys who were doing all the maintenance in that place, and they had to, oh yeah, we need to reach, the main hall. Wait, stop. Okay, now we can move on. Okay, stop. It's kind of tiresome, and somebody falls, you have an accident, insurance, blah, 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 a whole big issue. So I don't think it did make any sense. It made any sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it was pretty bad. But then they had
As an engineer, I can tell you that this is a stupid idea.
It is pretty fucking
We
stupid.
often imagine that spaceships are going to be full of corridors and like low ceiling rooms and shit, but that's just because that's how you build a cheap TV set or a cheap movie set. That's the reason we projected that as what we think spaceships are going to be. Well, they're probably not. Probably going to be huge rooms and very few corridors, like in 2001.
And imagine if you go to the office and you want to reach the room at the end of the hall, and wait for the swinging blades. Oh, let's move on. And you just have swinging blades in the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of Galaxy Quest, where they're like, have you guys ever seen that movie? If you haven't, you should check it out. It's really funny. In Galaxy Quest, the heroes at one point they have to get from one point of their ship to another, and they come into a corridor that's full of I think it's like some kind of death trap that's that could kill them if they're not careful, like razor blades or something like that. And the reason why that's in there because the aliens that they're helping out have rebuilt their ship based on TV episodes that they had seen. And so at one point, the captain goes, "Why are we? Is this even on this ship?" And they point out that it's basically because it was written poorly into a bad episode once, but they have to abide by those rules because the aliens have built it to those specifications. It's really funny. You have to watch that movie. Scott, welcome to the call.
Oh,
You don't
hi.
seem very happy to be here.
Hi, guys. Sorry about that. I'm fully retarded. I apologize.
It's okay.
No, it's fine. So we're gonna move on to Attack of the Clones. So this is Scott should have some fun. All right.
Oh,
So
yeah, Attack of the Clones. Ooh.
yeah, we're on Attack of the Clones now.
Oh, boy.
So I don't know what to say about that. So it's sometime later. Anakin's an older man. This, I think, or young man rather. I believe this. No, yeah, this is. He's a Padawan under Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had been, whose master Qui-Gon was killed by Darth Maul, and he's actually. I think that Obi-Wan is the character that I liked and related to the most in Attack of the Clones. If I had to pick somebody, that's who I would pick. And also, we get to know Padme, who apparently hadn't changed much, even though Anakin had grown quite a bit. He had hit a growth spurt or something. So, what? Okay, we gotta again. I issue the challenge. What about Attack of the Clones was that you liked? What would you say was good about it?
No Han Solo.
No Han Solo.
You pull that out every time. Hey, Brian, before we go on, I just wanted to ask you, do you want to buy some death sticks?
God. You're a horrible person, Max.
Speaking of the Matrix, the guy that says that line was actually
Mouse
from the Matrix, yeah. Fun fact.
Oh, man.
By the way,
neurokinetics, they're way above normal.
So wait, we want to talk about what we liked about Attack of the Clones?
Yeah, this is the hard question. The hard question is, what was good about Attack of the Clones?
Okay, you know what was good, sincerely, what was good about Attack of the Clones was the production. Character design, vehicle design, world design, it looked great. It looked great. I mean, it was neat. It was neat to see a new world, but past that, it was all just fucking superficial window dressing. And there really wasn't much anything about it that was good. I mean, the lightsaber battle with Yoda was something that people apparently wanted. And as a fan, as a person that has multiple Star Wars tattoos because I love Star Wars so much, I wasn't really looking for that. But apparently George Lucas thought that we were. I mean, but it was neat. I mean, it was a neat little thing, but I could have done without it. But honestly, I don't think there was much to like about Attack of the Clones. Yeah, at least that's my take on it, anyway.
What about Kit Fisto? Did you like Kit Fisto? I like Kit.
Oh yeah, yeah. The alien designs were neat. Yeah, well, like I was saying, the production of it was neat. Like the stuff that went into it, the art of the movie was neat. But not a whole lot to like though.
I gotta go back to Phantom Menace for something real quick because I just thought of that. You were talking about aliens. All right, so there's a scene in the Phantom Menace, right, where the Jedi Council are talking about fucking something. I don't know. They're just talking about shit. Doesn't matter.
Right.
I think they're talking about whether or not they want to take Anakin on as a student, or they're talking to Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan about, whatever. There's an alien sitting in the council, in the background, slightly out of focus. He has this 3-foot-long neck, and his
Ariel Poof.
Yeah, Yariel Poof.
Yep.
And his
I know
Talk about the fucking stupid names. This takes the cake.
Holy shit, dude! This guy is way dumber than Jar Jar.
He looks like a big dick and he's a poof.
Yeah. It looks like a fucking balloon.
This guy's around lightsabers all day, every day. One mistake with one of those, and his head comes off.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how do you fucking defend yourself from that? And it's great, the balloon analogy. It's bouncing up and down. Yeah.
Dude,
Oh, man.
So, but that's the thing. I'm watching this, and I'm looking, and they put him in the background out of focus. But so they're trying not to draw attention to it,
Yeah.
But you can't help it because there's this thing behind Yoda that's, or is it Mace? I think it might be Waste, or that dude with the cone head. But there's this thing, like waving in the background, and my friend leans over while we're in the theater, and he goes, "That's a Jedi Master."
Well, I guess he had to be good to live as long as he had with that kind of,
Qui-Gon's like, who's with this guy? And then Yoda's like, high off his ass he is.
Oh my God! Yeah, I had to. So yeah, Yariel Poof.
Oh God, I
Holy
can't
shit,
believe I
we
remember
never
the
saw
name.
him again.
Nope.
So we don't know what happened to him.
They were the first one to die in the Purge.
Well, it's funny actually. Robot Chicken did a bit with Yariel Poof.
Oh, did they really?
It's really fucking funny. It was really good. I was like, okay, I am now glad this character was made because Robot Chicken would not have made this bit without it. So, but anyway, all right. So I got it. I've said my piece about him. Let me go back to Attack of the Clones. So, fucking. All right. What about Jango Fett though? Was that all right?
Sure.
Eh,
Why not?
all right. Yeah.
You know what the thing about Jango Fett is, though? That was another thing that people wanted, or Lucas said that people wanted, but it was kind of like, oh, fucking Patton Oswalt does this thing about does this bit about like George Lucas talking about like how everything gets made or something. He does this whole bit. He's like, do you want some ice cream? He's like, yeah, I like some ice cream. Well, here's some rock salt and some fucking whatever. Make some ice cream. It's just like, it's like he goes, I like the things that I like. I don't need to know how they were made. It's just like, kind of like Jango Fett was one of those things. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, we get it. You're trying to make Boba Fett. You're trying to give him a backstory and all this kind of stuff. But you know what? Frankly, I don't care. Like, I don't give a fuck about Jango Fett. I was just like, whatever. Like, Boba Fett was cool because he was mysterious, Keep him mysterious. Let him have that mystique. Don't ruin everything by explaining it all away, explaining away how cool. That's like somebody explaining a joke. It's like, oh, and it's funny because this. You get it? It's just like,
Yeah.
God, dude. No. No.
Max, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just before we finish off with the good things about Attack of the Clones, I just wanted to say, like, obviously people in the chat are saying Christopher Lee, anything that he does is automatically great, even if you can't save a terrible movie. One thing I will say that I did like was that scene with the shapeshifter trying to take out Padme, not because they were actually trying to get rid of her character, which, so close, but when they were actually just flying through Coruscant, like, even though certain aspects of that scene...
Zam Wessel.
Yeah, even though that scene makes no sense in the Jedi, like Obi-Wan, and when Anakin just jumps off of the space car, he should have died. That it doesn't make any sense, but it's still fun to watch. I'll give it that. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got nothing else.
Visually. Yeah, visually.
Skepto, I challenge you to give me some. Oh, you already said no Han Solo. Is that all you got?
I'm afraid so. In that movie, yeah, I'm afraid so.
Apparently,
Well,
Skepto's not familiar
agree.
with suspension
I
of
agree.
disbelief.
Yeah, I agree with you that the city at the beginning, at the early stages of the movie, looked good. But rather than that, everything about the movie was crap. The characters were crap. The acting was crap. The dialogue was crap. There was no sense in no scenes made any sense to me. There's no like coherency in the story. Everything is so broken and full of plot holes that I don't know. The entire movie was like a huge clusterfuck of ideas.
It was very much a middle movie without that wasn't done as well. It was basically the opposite of Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yeah, it was like they played around with ideas, then start with something, then change it to something else, then it I don't know, mutated into this disgusting movie. But I cannot say anything good about it.
All right. What's the worst thing about Attack of the Clones.
Oh God. Oh God.
Hayden Christensen.
Oh God.
All right. Wait. I want Skeptor to go first because I think
The love story.
Oh, thank you.
About the love story.
Thank you, Skep.
Yeah, like
So
how do you
much.
fall in love with a guy who has permanent pedophile face throughout the entire run of the movie?
No, you know what the absolute worst part of that though was the whole thing where they're like frolicking on Naboo.
Oh my God.
Oh, give
With
me a
those
fucking
like
break.
nasty ass like cow hippo things.
Yeah.
Like
Listen,
what kind of bad is that? Like, nobody does that with like no.
I've got a rouse from seriously distorted porn, but this was too much for me. Really.
I mean, do you realize that those things are like they're taking giant dumps in those rolling hills?
Yeah.
Unless of course Naboo is one of those planets where everything is nice because it seemed like it, right? Like everything was a fucking like a fucking Windows wallpaper, and that's what they were going for. And like even the animals poop out like potpourri and flowers and stuff. But those were just some random like ugly ass cow things with like I don't know, just and they were just like we're gonna lay on the grass, and of course there's sand. Oh, and is that the one where Anakin kills the sand people?
Yes.
No, that was Tatooine.
No, I know, but it was in this movie that he did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where he goes and like not just the men, the women and the children too. I hate them.
And she goes, "Come here, I'll give you a hug, my genocidal maniac. Come here."
You know what? That could have been a decent setup though. Like that could have he had a legitimate reason to be mad, but then again, it's like explaining why it got fucking made. It's like, come on, Lucas, we understand. You don't have to have him tell us. You already showed us. It's like, oh God, he's insufferable, fucking Lucas. Oh, this guy.
Yeah, it would have been much better if he just kept him to himself, didn't tell Padme.
Because that makes Padme look like a fucking retard. I mean, it's just like, oh, she's okay with it? What? What the? I don't even. She's the leader of a fucking planet. And she's okay with him slaughtering wholesale groups of people. What the fuck?
Yeah, apparently killing a bunch of Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
And their children and the women in that tribe makes Padme wet.
Hey, some lives are worth more than others, apparently. You know.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Fuck those brown motherfuckers.
Hashtag sand people lives matter.
That's Tuscanophobic.
If he hadn't told her, then it would make sense that would draw some kind of distance between them. You know, he's started keeping secrets, but he said, "Yeah, I just raped a little boy. Okay, come here, let me make you some dinner. Oh yeah, I just killed 1 million people. Yeah, okay. Are you hungry or something? Let me suck your dick."
Put a baby in me quick before I dry up.
So, like, wait, if you were going to save the romance, if you were the writer and you can go back in time and change it, like, how would you approach doing that? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible. I think there's a lot of really easy ways to do it. You could just get a different actor. That's a start. And then write the shit.
Even better lines, yeah. Well, it would have made a lot. Would have made a lot more sense if she refused him. If she had refused him more, like he needed to earn her trust, and if he just comes to her room, says something like, "Wow, you're beautiful." She goes, "Okay, I love you now." It's retarded.
Yeah. Why did Han and Leia work so well? Probably because they were at odds when they first met.
Right.
They were sort of bitching at each other.
For a very long time. And
for two whole movies, they were just bitching at each other.
Well, 3 whole movies.
Yeah,
I mean, they didn't cement things until Return of the Jedi.
Well, that was never the case with those two. It was all fucking business, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was all standing around and talking about.
Well, staring into each other's eyes, like with rape face.
There's just too much exposition again. There's just too much talking about it.
I mean, I get it. Like, Natalie Portman's hot, but come on. Anakin needs a little bit of game. Couldn't Obi-Wan given him a little bit of some?
Hey, wait, he did have game though. Remember when he made the fucking fruit levitate and he peeled it for her or whatever with the fucking Jedi hoopadoo? And she's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool, Anakin! I love you now. Let's do it. Put a baby in me. Put your metachlorians on my face."
God. All right, so let's see, Attack of the Clones. I don't know. There was like the big climactic battle at the end. The bit with the battle you mentioned with Yoda. I didn't mind that. That was kind of cool. There were some people who were really geeking out over it, but I thought it was just I don't know, kind of. I didn't want to see that in a way where Yoda goes in, he goes, "Arr!" and he's just like flipping all over the place like a madman and shit.
Pay for your mistakes, you will, Dooku.
Yeah.
It's like, what? No, come on. I mean, it was neat, but
I did like Count Dooku.
Yeah.
And
The problem,
go ahead.
the problem is that had they stick to the original choreography of sword fights, like in the original series, they didn't have to make this scene so ridiculous. Because after the first movie, the first prequel, when they had all this new age choreography, people jumping around like faggots, swinging their dicks in the air, and not having a serious sword fight, then they needed also Yoda to do it as well. But try to think like Yoda and Dooku having the same sword fight choreography style like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. That would make a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. I thought this was one of the ways I may have done just justified it to myself, but I thought when the fact that the Jedi Order, like in the times of the prequels, that they were more fanciful with their fighting, that there was so much more wild, and crazy shit with people like running on walls and doing all this nutty stuff I thought that was supposed to be kind of a testament to when Obi-Wan in Part 4 said, that the lights, like basically the time of the Jedi Order was a different time, like where, all of this was way more refined, and this is sort of like lost knowledge. And that he was like the last of, them, and so like it hadn't been that way for many years, so that was like kind of lost. Right. And that was why in Part 4, when he fought against Vader, you could see that they were moving way like less, they were like slower and shit. Partly because obviously we weren't doing choreography like that, and also because the Alec Guinness was not like a physical guy, he was older, so
they retconned that. They did a retcon in the story to make it so that that made sense. Apparently Vader can't lift his arms very high because of his armor.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they've actually taken that into consideration. So yeah, he's because of his armor and because of the surgery and all this stuff, he can't lift his arms very high up. So that's why they don't have the crazy lightsaber battles like they used to back in the day. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a challenge of making a film in a time where if you had the fight choreography look like the way it did back in the old prequels, people would find that to be dull because they're accustomed to a higher pace, a more kinetic kind of fighting.
Yeah.
Again, The Matrix and Blade had come out really just before this. Well, actually, no. After this.
No. Are you trying to imitate Blade in Star Wars, or are you trying to stay loyal to Star Wars? I agree that maybe it's too old to watch something that was choreographed. I cannot say it. Choreographed at in the late 70s or early 80s, and you can pace it up a bit, but you cannot turn it into Blade.
No, I don't think so. But I'm trying to get an understanding as to why they would make those choices. And
because they thought it was cool. They thought it was cool.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I don't know. I thought that because weren't I don't know who the choreographer, the team for the prequels was, but
it was just one guy.
Ray
It was
Park?
just one guy. Yeah. Was it like
it wasn't Ray Park. I actually watched a documentary about this the other day. I can't remember. It's this British guy. It's not Ray Park though.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Doug something or another. But don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, but he was probably like looking at what, like
Kendo mostly.
Yeah. See, and I think that back in those, in the days of like the old movies, I don't think that we had choreographers that were looking at that stuff.
No.
They may have been looking at like
broadsword
maybe
fighting
Errol
and
Flynn
fencing.
or Rob, like maybe like Errol Flynn movies and stuff. Although the choreography and those was really good back in those days, but we didn't really. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I just think that I'm trying to understand why they would have made those choices, and I think that it's a combination of this would look cool, and everyone else is doing shit at a more faster, more intense, so we got to do that too. So I mean, I think it's a bit of both of those. So
Yeah.
and then they we'll deal with why later. We'll just retcon it later. We want to just put it in right now,
Good.
So.
I want to put it in right now.
Well, hold on.
Mate.
No, Scott. Not on the air. All right, so let's move on to the last one, Revenge of the Sith. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, I thought Revenge of the Sith was the best one. I don't necessarily think that it's better than the original movies, but of those three, I think that they had finally kind of found themselves where, and that doesn't mean it doesn't have its problems. Like, I know that it has a lot of problems. Like, no is like probably one of the biggest ones. But
You know what? I didn't have a problem with that. I was just like,
No!
whatever.
terrible. That was.
I mean, it was bad, but considering what had happened in the three movies, like leading up to that, I mean, come on, that's the least problematic thing to happen.
Listen, I burst laughing at the cinema when it did this.
Yes, so did I.
Oh yeah, I think everyone was laughing in the theater when that happened.
Yeah.
When I was in a screening, I actually did see Revenge of the Sith in the theaters. Right after the movie was done, the credits were rolling. A guy stood up square in the center of the theater and did exactly what Darth Vader did. He was like, "No!" It was beautiful.
Which conveys how we feel about the entire prequels.
Can you imagine being in the I don't know, with the agent of James Earl Jones and showing him the script and saying, "We want you to come back to play Darth Vader, the most iconic villain in film history, or at least one of them."
And we want you to play like Frankenstein.
You have some of the best dialogue, and we need you to bring your voice that brings a level of sophistication and a real like gravitas and presence to the Darth Vader character. And he's like, "What do you want me to say?" And, and they just have this page that just says N-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O. I mean, after he says, "What about Padme? Where's Padme?" Like
Padme.
Where is Padme?
I think they were hinged from doing the scene where Darth Vader is swinging his fist in the air and going, "Damn you!" and "Damn you, Obi-Wan!"
Yeah, exactly. God, that was, and the thing is James Earl Jones said, "Yes, I'll do it." I guess he didn't have much to do at the time, so why not? But all right.
He got paid. He probably got paid an absurd amount of money to say no.
yeah, yep.
Well, they must have done several takes, like many takes. You have to do at least 10 of those. And that was the best one, apparently.
I want to see those outtakes, man.
And you know what the worst thing about it? It's not the no. It's the posture when he says no. Had he did it, laying on the ground like a baby, it would have made a lot more sense, just laying on the ground,
Or at least on his knees or something, maybe.
Clenched up in himself, saying no, right? Not looking at the skies with his fist, on his side, on each side of his body. No, like he's fucking Jesus or something.
Every time I see that scene now, I just like to pretend that I'm that army general when Mark Hamill guest starred in that one episode of The Simpsons. So he's like, "Well, your dad was good, but I didn't really feel your no." You got to really belt out that no. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Now drop and give it 20.
And don't you think that Darth should have looked at Sirius and go, "You don't look so sad," you know?
Oh, Darth
Because
Sidious.
he was just sitting there laughing, you know. "Oh, Padme's dead." You know, he goes, "No, wait, you look like you're. Doesn't disturb you at all," you know. What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, I guess he wasn't. Well,
I was just fucking with you, man. She's fine.
I was just trolling. Do you feel the butthurt?
Wait, don't he do that in the Robot Chicken one?
I don't know. Maybe there is a bit that they do dealing with Sidious and Vader after he comes out of the thing and does
Yeah,
it.
I think he actually does that. Oh gosh, I have to go back and watch that
I
again.
think so. Yeah. I wanna okay. So let's look at Revenge of the Sith. What besides the no, which I think we all. It's both, I think, as a love-hate thing, because thanks to that, there are memes where the no gets used. So we have that now as part of our internet language, which...
Our lexicon?
Yeah, it's part of our lexicon. But it is mostly because it was such a dreadful bit. But what is something about Revenge of the Sith that was good? What did you like about Revenge of the Sith? All right, so I'm going to start with Mike. Did you see it? Do you have an
Yeah. I've seen them all, probably twice actually, just to make sure. I can't remember a fucking thing that happened. That's all. If you sit me down in front of me, I remember all this now. But it's gone.
Well, maybe we'll come back to when we talk about stuff.
They killed younglings. That was awesome.
Yes.
Like how they got around the idea of
Not
killing
the
children by just calling them younglings.
I am on a computer screen. Killing younglings.
There's so much wrong with the word younglings, isn't there? just I don't. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
All right, Scott. What was good about Revenge of the Sith?
What was good about it? That it was finally over. Suffering stopped. You know, here it's kind of hard because it's like it's the best of the three is damning it with faint praise. There wasn't anything particularly great about it, but there were some interesting things here and there. Like, I guess that we got to. Okay, this is gonna sound really stupid, but like the part where Obi-Wan cuts off all his limbs, basically. But like just that part, not when he's talking afterwards, but just when he cuts off his limbs. Like
I have the high ground, Anakin. It's over. That's the thing that we're supposed to care about. Like I'm like, wait, what?
None of that dialogue. Just
One
the
of
part where he cuts off his limbs. It's just like, yeah, he cut them all up. Like, that was good. Yeah, I mean, past that, it's just like, I mean, the lightsaber battle between those two was kind of interesting. It had a bit of a throwback to like old Errol Flynn movies where they're really using the environment. They're all over the set and they're not just standing face to face, going down. They're like running up and down things and just, so it was kind of neat in that way. It kind of had a bit of a throwback feel to it. But I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, it's a bad movie.
What about oh shit. I can't remember now. It doesn't matter. Yeah, oh no, the score during that fight was good. Duel of the Fates, I think.
Yeah.
The
score was great. Yeah.
Oh, John Williams still pretty much. I think he knocked it out of the park with all three movies. I mean, the guy can't really do any wrong, especially when you're given this. Basically, he took a turn and polished it on his part of it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he was the corn in the turd.
Yeah, he put the corn in. All right, so Max, what was a good thing about Revenge of the Sith, rather?
Well, I think it's pretty much indisputable that the best scene of the movie was the following: "You are so beautiful. It's only because I'm so in love No, it's because I'm so in love with you. So love has blinded you. Well, that's not exactly. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Okay.
Smoopy.
You know, the thing is, Padme in the first movie was actually bearable for me, but she just gets worse with every single movie that goes on. I actually didn't mind Revenge of the Sith. I actually kind of liked it, but every single scene that she was in Revenge of the Sith was just unbearable.
You're breaking my heart!
You know what?
I would
Technically,
prefer Tommy
Max,
Wiseau would have it better. Tommy
Max.
Wiseau would have done it better.
You're tearing me apart, Padme!
Hey, Max, you know what's funny? The reason you like Padme in the first movie initially is because it wasn't her. It was her body double playing her.
It was
That's
Keira
why you liked
Knightley.
it. It was Keira Knightley.
It was. It's Keira Knightley being quiet as fuck.
Okay, but in all seriousness, something that I actually liked about Revenge of the Sith, the opening space battle. I thought that was fun. I thought in terms of the crap CGI that we've had in the prequels, I thought that all looked pretty damn cool, and it was pretty fun. You know, seeing Anakin cut off Dooku's head, and then they go crashing into Coruscant, I believe it was. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, Skep, what was your? Did I ask you that? What you liked about the Revenge of the Sith?
Do I need to say it? No, Han Solo. No, just kidding. Well, it was the darkest one. Again, I'm quoting Plinkett, but it was the darkest one. It was the most, darkest one, I guess.
Yeah, darkest one ever.
I think they were aiming it at kids the whole time. George in particular was aiming it at kids because he was trying to get a new generation in young, and that was why there was so much sort of nonsense, particularly in the Phantom Menace. Even though all the adults on his team said, "Hey, this is a clusterfuck, George," he went, "No, kids like it because kids don't care about the plot; they just like all the pretty things." So I think he took that audience, through to the Sith, but at which point they were teenagers, and he was thinking, I'll appeal to the teenagers by being dark now. But it's still not that.
I think that movie had more potential in the story than all the other movies for being actually a good movie. I think they fucked it up as well in many ways, but at least it had some grain of I don't know, a good story that could have been evolved into something better. And I'll talk about the things that I didn't like about it because of that. But it was, it had a better story than the other two.
The thing about the prequels is that if you look at the basic story on paper, like if you just had a 4-page treatment for each of the individual movies, you have something pretty special there. It's just the execution of it that was terrible. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, probably. It all depends on the way you tell the joke, right? Or the story.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Oh, God. He's too dangerous to be left alive. My favorite part about Revenge of the Sith is the same thing that I liked about the other two, but in Revenge of the Sith it really came together. It's fucking Palpatine. Ian McDiarmid does a really good job and carries that movie by himself. I always loved the Palpatine character. And, I mean, the guy is such a fucking asshole. You can't help but love him. Now, I didn't like the fact that, Anakin went from Jedi to Sith really quick. Like, I didn't really get the change.
That's the biggest problem in the movie.
Yeah, that was awful. But Palpatine himself was amazing. I mean, there's so many great things about that movie that he did, even though some of them are cheesy, like unlimited power, like that's that's bad. But he brings back like a lot of the stuff that Palpatine did in Return of the Jedi, where he's like, I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger. And that's great stuff. And he's got that melodrama. Like one of my favorite lines by him. He has great lines. That's pretty much what I like about him. Plus, he has this like I made fun of his interesting fighting style where he has this thing where he does thrusts a lot. And where
a tornado spin
with the lightsaber, and I was like, oh, it's like Jedi didn't realize that's a way you can kill them really easily because he takes a few guys out,
Yeah. Kit
And,
Fisto among them.
What?
Kit Fisto among them.
Yeah, he takes
Kit
them out.
Fisto, Plo Koon.
And they're like,
who
I
the
didn't
other guy was.
expect the thrust,
Yep. You know what though? That scene, he was really chewing the set on that scene.
I know. That's what Star Wars is, though. It's really there's a lot of melodrama and a lot of that chewing. I mean, if you're gonna have pretty cheesy lines, you may as well enjoy reading them.
Right,
And
go whole hog.
just act like you're on a fucking stage and like people are watching, because he does in all of his movies. What was it? I think it was in Attack of the Clones where he goes, "I love democracy, I love the Republic," but we know he's full of shit. And in the last one, he's like, well, there's execute order 66. He has it like basically. Palpatine is, I think, he makes the whole prequel trilogy. If not, now he doesn't make them good movies, but he's the best thing about them.
Because it takes so much joy in it.
Yeah, he's totally and the thing is, the more I think about the way that's been written out. Man, the motherfucker had everything set up and didn't give a fuck about anybody. He had Count Dooku thinking yeah, you're gonna be my dude now, and then before long he's like, kill him.
Yeah. And he's smiling too, like he's sitting in the fucking chair. He's just like eating it up. He's loving it. Oh,
Do
it's
it.
great.
He doesn't give a fuck. So there's nobody more gangster in the galaxy than Palpatine. The motherfucker, and he succeeded in everything. They didn't end up killing him until Return of the Jedi. He basically had the shit unlocked for 30 years. And he even said, I think that, was it at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he goes, now we shall have peace. And they did!
Yep.
For the most part, under his rule. So, yeah, Palpatine is a fucking thug, man. That was the best. That was my favorite thing about it. Now, again, and he fights Yoda. He talks shit about him. He talks shit about everybody. Palpatine doesn't give a fuck. I have been waiting a long time for this moment, my little green friend. I love him. He's fucking awesome.
And he's just enjoying it the whole time. That was what's so great. He's just reveling in it because he's been planning this and doing all this stuff behind the scenes for fucking who knows how long.
Yeah.
It's just man, and it's he's like fucking Hannibal from the A-Team. I love it when a plan comes together. He's so fucking stoked about it.
He didn't even he didn't even care that his face got burned up. He didn't give a shit. He got to kill, and Mace Windu knew. He was like, he's too dangerous to leave alive. This motherfucker's gotta die.
He needs to go down. He needs to go down.
Midichlorians, motherfucker. Do you have them?
Oh, and you know what the best thing about that is though too? There's still a window. Mace Windu might come back because they didn't. He's not definitely dead.
No, falling in Star Wars means you're dead.
I don't know, man. Anakin fell out of the car and did the thing in the flying, the fucking cool base jumping thing, and he's still alive.
Darth Maul, Clone Wars.
Yeah, he got cut in fucking half.
Yeah, that makes no sense. None at all.
Well, kinda.
But then, by that logic, Palpatine may not be dead either.
Well.
He blew up, though.
What?
He had to go poof. He had to go poof.
When he got thrown down the shaft, and, there was a giant explosion.
Yep.
Yeah, and all that blue light came up the shaft.
Oh, okay.
The chat is like, Mace didn't do.
Yeah, Mace didn't do. Oh, man, there's still a possibility. We might see Mace with a robot arm come back. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
Hell, that could have been in the Force Awakens in the trailer. That could have been Mace Windu's robot arm touching R2D2.
Could be. They didn't show the face
Your
of the
mind is blown, isn't it?
I'm expecting him to pull it back, and it's like, Yariel Poof, back. People of Force, rubbernecking. So, all right. So, really quick, what sucked about Revenge of the Sith?
You want a bullet points list, or are we just freeforming this?
Almost all the dialogue. Pretty much.
The Jedi are evil, in my opinion, or something like that.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Well, then you are lost. So many great memes. This movie is the king of memes. Honest to God. It's so good.
You can take that to the bank.
Padme falling out of a troop transport that is going hundreds of miles an hour.
No, that was in the second movie. And she rolls
you're right.
And a clone trooper goes over, and he goes, "Are you okay?" And she stays there for a second, and she goes, "Yeah, let's go."
Yeah. Let's go, bro.
She died of a broken heart.
Oh,
breaking my heart.
God. There's just so much to pick from. I mean, it's like, and it all, and I'm sorry, it all just kind of blends together in its horribleness.
It just comes down to bad acting, bad writing, bad dialogue.
Ahaha, that's very funny, Padme. I'm going to have a nap.
Tommy Wiseau would have made the fucking prequel so much better. I want to see the Tommy Wiseau cut of the prequels. Oh wait, we've already seen that. It's directed by George
I
Lucas.
died.
I did not kill the younglings. I did not.
I did not.
You're tearing me apart. Oh, hi, Mark.
But,
Oh, God damn.
so,
Hi, Palpatine.
but on the plus side, it did
You're
set
my
up
favorite customer.
it did give people the thing they wanted, which was basically what led to Part 4. So I guess, you asked for it, now you got it. There was one other thing that I thought was really interesting. So the guy who played Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing, he had been dead a long time. But they somehow found some dude that looked a whole fucking lot like him at the end of the movie. He didn't say anything, but he was
For
just
the bridge scene?
What?
For the bridge scene.
Yeah, for the closing scene, right?
Yep.
Holy shit, how did they do that? I want to know. I need to look that up. I actually got to figure that out, who they got. He may have been like, maybe they
CGI'd him
a bit, but...
Yeah. No, that was pretty cool. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Gotta love... In a moment of triumph, I
Yeah.
love Grand Moff Tarkin, so...
Yeah.
Whatever the
You
fuck...
recognized his stench when he came on board. No,
But,
it's not the guy who played Scorpius. The guy who played Scorpius is someone else.
oh, yeah, no. Peter Cushing was dead before that.
Yeah.
I think he died... he died a long time ago, so...
Yeah, back in the 80s.
Yeah. But anyway, we gotta wrap it up. So thanks for joining us on this journey through the Star Wars. We got through the hardest part, part 1, 2, and 3. So we'll do next week. We'll look at 4, 5, and 6. I think that we'll have a great time on that because there's definitely a lot of good. But we can also there's some fucked up shit about those. We can talk a little bit about the special editions too, if you guys want.
Ooh, yeah. God, we should maybe do like a whole episode just about the special editions.
No. Jesus. But yeah, so yeah, that's something to consider. But thanks, guys. If you want to make a comment about the Star Wars prequels, please leave a message. If you think that we're giving it too hard a time, and you think that they're better movies, and then I know that Razor Fist likes them, and he disagrees with what was the guy that made the hour-and-a-half long reviews of the Star Wars?
Red Letter Media.
What was it?
Harry
Letter Media.
Plinkett. Yeah, Harry
Yeah,
Plinkett.
Plinkett, yeah. Well,
Harry Plinkett, yeah. He disagrees a lot with Harry Plinkett, so maybe you guys, like them more, and it could be a generational thing. It could be just like, what your expectations are. leave a comment. I'd like to know what your thought was. Question for the Nerdcast: who shot first? Han.
Han.
Obviously. Duh.
He was the only one who shot, basically.
Yeah.
So-
And if anybody thinks otherwise, you're not going to be on next week's show.
Agreed.
But yeah. So leave us a message, and also send us an email at topic@badgerpod.com if you want to offer any other insights or ideas, and we'll try to read your letter on the air. And consider being a patron at patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And that's it. Thanks. And does anybody want to do? Does anybody know how to do an impression of any characters?
No.
Is that? Are you answering
do
the
not.
question, or are you doing the impression?
No, I was answering you. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I could do a bit of Chewbacca. I don't know.
Oh my God! I mean, I'm not gonna. What was up with Yoda and Chewbacca being friends?
Oh, right.
What was up with Vader building C-3PO and then later not recognizing him? What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Never mind. What was up with? There was another one. Oh, there's lots of issues. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Fucking Japanese aliens.
Okay, come on, wrap it up. I got to go off to Tahashi Station.